Welcome to the Flex Rental Solutions webinar. This is actually a re-recording of the webinar. I had a few technical problems during the live webinar with the recording, but I'm going to cover the same exact things during this recording as I did during the live webinar. I'm even going to cover some of the same questions that were asked during the live webinar. So let's just get right into it. First, I want to define a few terms that will help us all be on the same page as I present information in this webinar. So first of all, Flex4, that is our current Flash-based product, so the product that you use every day when you log in and use Flex. Flex Mobile, that's the old mobile app that was limited to just iOS devices. It's not even available in our App Store anymore. It's been replaced by our new mobile app for Flex5, but I do talk about the old mobile app briefly. Flex5 is the new HTML5 based product, and that can refer to both the desktop and the mobile applications. I usually differentiate, I'll say Flex5 Mobile when I'm talking about mobile, but a lot of times I just say Flex5 when I'm talking about desktop. The database is where all of your Flex data lives: inventory, info, quotes, contacts, scan logs, user settings, all of that. We're going to talk about that a little bit and how that relates to the transition between Flex4 and Flex5. And then APIs, Application Programming Interface. That's a web communication protocol that speaks between the user interface and our servers. So we're going to talk about that and how we rewrote a lot of the API that will communicate with the front end and back end server in Flex5. So let's talk a little bit about the Flex5 transition. I've talked about this before in previous webinars, so just a brief overview. So some of the problems that we had that we were trying to resolve and why we decided to transition to Flex5 was, number one, the Flash end of life. So that is officially going to be at the end of 2020. Even some web browsers are making it more and more difficult to use Flash in their browsers. So we knew that that was going to be a problem. Flex4 is Flash-based, so we knew that we had to get our product off of Flash. So that is the primary problem that we're trying to solve with the Flex5 product. Second, of course, I talked about the Flex Mobile app. It was iOS native only, so we needed a new mobile app solution that could cover more than just one operating system. Speed and efficiency has been a complaint from especially some of our bigger customers when they start dealing with some large quotes or scanning large jobs. Things start getting kind of slow, and that just all has to do with the back end of the Flex4 product. We also were kind of boxed in by the old Flex4 back end, making it kind of difficult to improve on Flex4 and also to add new features. And we just generally needed a UI and user experience update anyway. So all these problems that we had, we decided that our best course of action would be to create Flex5, which is going to be an HTML5 based product, but also is going to have a completely new backend so that we can kind of resolve some of the speed, efficiency issues, and also kind of being boxed in by the old backend in Flex4. So that's what Flex5 is, both a front end and a back end rewrite of the entire application. So we started, of course, with Flex Mobile. Flex5 Mobile, I should say. And that is a HTML5 based application that works both on Apple and Android. So we solved that problem just right out of the gate by developing an app that isn't specific to one platform. We built that using new tools, using a toolkit for the UI, and it's the same tools that we're using for Flex5 Desktop now. So it was a way for us to kind of get used to the new toolkit, to get our feet wet with HTML5, having built an entire product on Flash. Just kind of wanted to get our foot in the door with that and not jump right into desktop immediately. So we used Flex5 Mobile as kind of our way to get into that. As we developed the mobile app, we built the new backend. So everything that you do on the mobile app, things like inventory management, scanning, all of that has a new backend built that's faster and more efficient. And we can use that same backend now on Flex5 Desktop, just using a different user interface. And like I mentioned, obviously the UI and backend, it works for both operating systems now. So any updates we make are updated on both Apple and Android. We don't have to have separate developers that can work for both operating systems. We were also able to implement some additional features and improvements in the app. Things like signature capture for manifests, an improved way of doing content builder, and then of course RFID functionality is included in those apps, and there's more information about that coming soon. So I always like to look at Flex5 being kind of a suite of products. In fact, we even include Flex4 in that suite of products at this point. As long as it still exists, it's still one of the products that you will use and still needs to communicate with your database information. So I like to use this diagram as a way of explaining that all of our products, our whole suite of products, are communicating with the same database information. So everything that you have set up in Flex4, all of your quotes, inventory, user info, contacts, etc., all of that is still going to exist in your database. And what we did was created a new backend and APIs to communicate with the new Flex5 front end user interface. So even though we have a whole new backend that's communicating to the database, it's speaking to the same database. So basically what that means is that anything you do in Flex4 will show in Flex5. Anything that you create or update in Flex5 will update in Flex4 immediately. Anything that you do in Flex5 Mobile, if you create new inventory or scan out a job, all of that will be updated on both Flex5 Desktop and Flex4 Desktop. So I like to mention that so that you know that there is no, there's no needing to recreate any information in Flex5 Desktop. All of your inventory, quotes, settings, and things like that will carry over. How you had them set up in Flex4, all of that will exist in Flex5. Now there might be a few features that we are changing a little bit, where you might have to do some resetup, but when it comes to your important information, like all of your contacts, inventory, quotes, all your jobs and things like that, all of that will remain. So Flex5 Desktop features that we have so far, and I'll show these during our demo portion, of course, but I just wanted to give a brief overview of things that we've completed so far that are currently being tested by real-life Flex users right now. So of course we have financial document view, edit. You can create new financial documents. You can go in and see existing financial documents, change most of the information associated with financial documents, run workflows. I'll show all of that in the demo. Inventory viewing and editing. Since all of this was built, the backend was built in Flex5 Mobile, we were able to pretty easily adapt that to Flex5 Desktop by just building a new user interface using that same backend. Same with serial unit view and editing. We also have free scan in and free scan out. We'll be working on prep and return scanning in the near future here. And then something that is not quite available to our testing customers is equipment list viewing, so pull sheets, manifests, and things like that. We have a developer that is working on that right now. I'll be able to show you that in the demo, in this demo that I'll be showing you, but as far as that being available right now, that currently is not. Just a quick overview of our release and testing timeline for Flex5 Desktop. First of all, we are currently in alpha testing right now, so we have real live Flex customers that are testing Flex5 Desktop. We put that alpha label on there because it's still very much a work in progress. There are features that are missing. There are things that have not been robustly tested. For the most part, of course, we're not going to give you a product that is corrupt and extremely buggy, but there are a few things that that you might uncover as you test it that we still need to fix. So we have just about 10 customers that are currently testing this alpha version. As of today, I'm going to give access to 10 more customers that are on my list, and as we continue releasing more and more of Flex5 Desktop, then that number will just continue to increase. I'm hoping that by mid-November, early December, we're not just going to have a couple dozen, but we might have 50 to 100 customers that are testing Flex5 Alpha. And then by the end of the year, 2019, I'm hoping to have hundreds of customers that are testing. So that's kind of the outlook that we have right now as far as customers testing. And then as far as us releasing new versions of Flex5 Desktop, we're hoping to do that every 2 to 3 weeks. I wish I could show you the emails that are coming through of all the work that's being done. Every day there's new features that our developers have worked on and new things being merged into the system. And so us releasing something every 2 to 3 weeks means that you're going to see those new features that we're developing every 2 to 3 weeks. So it's going to be very active. You're going to see a lot of things coming through. And at some point, we want all customers to be testing Flex5 Desktop and using Flex5 Desktop, but that is still to be determined when that's going to happen. Like I said, by the end of the year, I hope that we'll have at least a few hundred customers that are alpha testing Flex5 Desktop. But when everybody is using Flex5 as their day-to-day product, that's still to be determined, but we're hoping that that will happen sometime early next year. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of that. We're going to be doing more webinars, showing progress, showing features, giving you updates on how many customers are testing. So just because that's to be determined right now doesn't mean that, maybe in a few weeks or, 2 months, we might have a little bit more information for you. Point is, though, that we do have a lot of people that are on our list to start testing, and we're going to start giving access to the people on that list very rapidly, starting today and through the month of October. Okay, so that concludes the slideshow portion. Let's go into our demo portion now and actually look at what we have developed in Flex5 Desktop, give you an idea of what you can expect once you start testing Flex5 Desktop, and give you a little bit of a roadmap of some of the features that we're expecting through the rest of the year and things like that. So I'll just log in, again, using my same user information because, like I said, everything is communicating through the same database between Flex4 and Flex5, so I don't need a new login, I don't need any new information. I just log in with my same user ID and password that I'm used to. Now keep in mind that this is an active development site, so everything that our developers merge into the code base every day is updated here instantly. So some of the things that may have been merged through today that haven't been tested yet might cause a few bugs here and there. So if you see any bugs or UI issues as I'm demoing, that's just because we're in a very live and active development environment right now. So let's look at some of the general layout, and then we'll look at some of the features in Flex5 Desktop. I'll explain some of the things that we did differently, why we did that, and just give you an idea of what the general navigation is going to be like. So probably the first thing you notice is that we don't have the long menu on the top anymore. We opted to put everything into what we call a hamburger menu. This is kind of more modern. A lot of applications do something like this these days. So here are all of the menu options that you're used to. You'll notice that things like reports and system settings are not here. We will end up putting those up in the corner here. But most of what you're used to, like your inventory, warehouse, contacts, projects menu, are all here. This is something that was just developed and merged into the code base today. The fact that now anything that isn't available is grayed out, so I can't even click on it. Notice even if I try to double click, it's just selecting everything. But anything that is active, like I can create a new inventory item, that's active. Any of my lists of elements and things like that, those are currently active as well. And so as things become active, as we develop new features, then you'll see those menu options become active until we get to the point where everything is active. So that's our main menu. You'll also notice that the resource browser is just a little bit different as well. Instead of having something that's always there with kind of that accordion menu structure, we now have an easy pop in and pop out structure that shows things like our contacts tree, our inventory tree. I can still resize like I'm used to. Services, our recent items. As of now, the only thing that you can actually browse and view is our inventory tree. So I can open up inventory, view the information there. We'll look at that in just a second. We can browse the contacts and services, but as of now, if I try to open any of those, it just gives me a basic UI. So those are a couple things that we're working on now, and we'll hope we'll see in the next month or two as the services and full contact UI. As far as inventory goes, we have a lot of the features that you're used to. We're implementing most of the inventory tabs that you're used to as well. So you may not see all of them here right now, but we are working on those as we speak. Quantity tab, if it's serialized, we have our serial units tab. Out of commission, suggestions, alternatives. Most of these are viewable and editable, but some of them, for example, pricing is viewable, but we just haven't implemented the ability to edit yet. And that's just one of those things that we'll be working on over the next few weeks, and you'll eventually see that ability to edit as we start releasing new versions every 2 to 3 weeks. So one thing that we've tried to do is implement some commonly requested features as we're building this new UI. So one example would be this, suggestions. Let's say that I go and add just a bunch of things at once into my suggestions tab. And I know a lot of customers have frequently requested this, where when they have a bunch of items and they want to add it all to the same suggestion type, right now in Flex 4 you have to click suggestion type for each one and choose one for each line and go down and do that for each line. What we did in Flex 5 though is implemented a bulk edit feature for this tab, so I can select all these lines, go to edit selected lines. Let's say I accidentally added all those as 2, so I want to change the quantity to 1. And then I also want to add these to a suggestion type. And I could add multiple if I wanted, but I'm just going to add 1. And there we go. So that's a very commonly requested feature, and we were able to easily implement that into Flex 5. Another one would be the ability to quickly and easily upload a model image. That's often been a pain point for people that are trying to upload model images into their inventory items. So what we've done is we now have a drag and drop onto this area, and I don't have an example set up here, but I could drag and drop something from my desktop, an image file, just directly onto this area, and it would just pop up my upload window, and I can upload it with just 2 clicks. Whereas in Flex 4, that would probably take about 8 to 10 clicks just to upload a single model image. So we've done a lot of improvements in that area. Let me see if I do have just something that I can try to upload really quick to show you what this looks like. There we go. The whole process is just so much easier now. You don't have to jump through 5 different pages. You can just do everything right here on one page. And then upload, and we're done. So again, just another thing that we really wanted to improve in Flex 5, so we were able to do that. And you can also delete a model image in Flex 5 now, which is something you couldn't do in Flex 4. So just as a quick side note, new features, new functionality, we are being very selective of what we put into Flex 5 during this initial phase, because our main priority right now is to get all functionality out of Flash. Because if we hit the Flash end of life deadline and we still have people needing to use our Flash product, then we're in a really bad place. So our main priority is to get everything ported over from Flash into HTML5, and then after that we'll start looking at some of the bigger features that have been requested and things that we can add into Flex5. But for now, we can at least do some of the smaller features that have been requested, like that bulk edit, better image uploading, and you'll notice a few other things as I go through this demo that is new functionality. May not necessarily be anything major, but we're trying to get in as much as that of that as we can during this transition period. And then, like I said, after we get everything transitioned over out of Flash, then we'll start looking at some of the more major features that have been requested. So let's move out of inventory and look a little bit at financial elements now. So we have the ability to go in and create a new financial element. And again, you'll notice the UI might just be a little bit different, but the functionality is about the same that you're used to. All the fields that you've set up in Flex4 will still be available. A lot of the same features that you're used to. Oh, it looks like I forgot to put a venue. Let's do that real quick. So one thing that you'll notice about the financial element layout is that we no longer have the view of everything on one page. Now we've split that up into header, detail, and total sections. The reason why we did that is because a lot of times if you just want to come in and make a quick change to your header, like maybe you want to make a change to the venue or change the load-in date, especially if you have a slightly larger job that has a lot of line items, trying to open the whole quote with header block, total block, the detail view, all the different options, that could sometimes take a little while, and all you're trying to do is just change your load-in date. So for example, we have a quote that has about 6,000 line items that we use for internal testing here. So if I go to open that, instead of it having to load the entire job and I just sit there and wait for it, I just loaded the header block in about 1 second. So I can come in here and change the return date, for example, and now I'm done. Of course, if I need to go and change some line item details, I could do that as well. So I'll click Details tab. But again, this is 5,000 or 6,000 line item quote, and that whole thing just loaded in about 5 or 6 seconds. So incredible speed improvements over Flex4, and that's the new backend that's doing that. And you'll notice that all around. You probably noticed that already as I've been clicking through and viewing different things, that things just open really fast. Of course, right now, this is kind of a work in progress, so things will load a little bit slower for my pull sheet because this is still something that's being actively developed. But we've really optimized the quote to load quickly and efficiently, and doing things like dragging and dropping things onto your quote to build a quote, things like that. Just a lot smoother, a lot faster. And like I said, a lot of the functionality that you're used to is still there. It's just a little bit better. So just as an example here, I'm going to add all of these suggestions. It looks like most of them were sharing a suggestion type, so they all kind of got checked off. And things are just moving so much quicker and faster and adding better than it ever did in Flex4. So that's that new backend that's working there. Most of the functionality to edit a quote is implemented. You could add notes, change time, rate, price, cost, etc. In fact, let's close this over here so that we have a little bit more space to view everything. We can come over here and select some items, see my options here. Can copy and paste. We have a new clipboard that we've implemented where we can paste from there. It shows us how many things are currently on the clipboard. Can delete line items, bulk edit. This is another thing that was just developed just yesterday. We got that finished. So I couldn't be happier with just how fast and efficient things are in Flex5 when it comes to viewing, editing, and creating financial documents. And like I said, everything that you have set up for your financial document settings in Flex4 carries over to Flex5. So all of your document views, any edits that you've made to those, whatever workflows you have set up, all of those will carry over as well. Anything you've set up in your total block. So again, we didn't want to make it cumbersome by having you have to go and recreate things in Flex4 or recreate them in Flex5. Everything's communicating to the same database, so it will pull up everything like you're used to, just in a slightly different UI. So that is financial elements, and that will work for anything that is a financial element in your system, like quotes. If you've set up custom financial elements like a proposal, invoices, things like that, the same UI will work for all those different financial element types. The last thing that we'll just take a quick look at is our scanning screens. So like I said, we have free scan in, free scan out, and inquiry scan currently developed. And right now is pretty basic. Just scan your inventory. You have the same options that you're used to, like a location selector if you have multiple locations, sound theme selector, prompt preferences, the ability to edit and log maintenance on your recently scanned items. So everything like you're used to. So that is pretty much the demo for Flex5 Desktop. Like I said, we are rapidly increasing our development rate. New things are being implemented every day, every week. So as you start testing and as we start releasing a new version every 2 to 3 weeks, then you'll start seeing all that progress as we go. So like I said at the beginning, the live webinar that we did had some recording difficulties, so I wasn't able to get that recording, but we did have some good questions from the live audience. Some of the things that people were asking were things like feature requests and things like that, and if we're going to see these features. Again, like I mentioned, we're trying to squeeze in as many features as we can and new functionality, but anything major is going to be held off until we've ported everything from Flex4 into Flex5. We've also got some questions regarding how you can become a tester. You can just send an email to support. They'll put you on our list. And like I said, we've been activating 5 to 10 new customers every week to be testers. We'll give you instructions on how you can test and how to give feedback and things like that. So just shoot an email to support if you want to get on that list. But like I said, at some point we will start just activating not just individual customers to be testers, but entire servers. So 25, 30 customers at once will all get activated and be able to start testing Flex5 Desktop. We also got some questions just about the long-term roadmap, when everybody's going to be able to use Flex5 Desktop, what features are coming up next. And again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, we don't have a very detailed roadmap that we can share at this point. What we do know is that we are taking every single feature that exists in Flex4, prioritizing them based on how much we think customers are using those things, and then working on those features based on priority to bring them into Flex5. It's kind of been a slower road coming into that, just because we started by building, like I said, the financial documents, and that was a very, very large project that took a long time to get finished. But now that that is pretty much working and we're just polishing it now, that leaves us with the ability to work on other things like services view and contacts view, and then start going through the menu and just implementing all of these different options. And eventually down the road system settings and things like that. So we don't necessarily have a customer-facing roadmap that shows what features will be worked on and when, but just know that we're prioritizing things based on usage and working on those features based on priority. So that is the webinar for today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, or like I said, if you want to get on that email list, then you can, the testing list, then you can email support@flexrentalsolutions.com. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the next webinar.